We are back and ready to roll. This is episode number 37 of the Shutdown Inning Podcast. As we continue our holiday editions here in the great month of December in the year 2023. Stephen Rissotto here, as always, alongside Tylor Hall. Tyler, how's it going?
Hey, everybody, doing good. Steven, Merry Christmas, man. Happy holidays to everyone else out there celebrating whatever that may be. And yeah, it's been a little dormant on the baseball side of things, but then last night we had some more activity. So yeah, it should be a fun episode, man.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. And sorry to everybody that wanted a ASAP reaction. Last week was weird for me. It was kind of a blur, but I'm glad that we could get on here and talk about some of the developments that happened, mostly centered around a team in Southern California that a lot of people listening that are Giants fans maybe don't want to hear. So we'll try our best.
Yeah, man. It's for Giants fans, it's probably not going to be the most fun episode, at least some of these topics, but there will be some Giant stuff mixed in there as well. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, it was not necessarily a immediate reaction, but obviously the biggest domino potentially in baseball free agent history, Shohei Ohtani going to the Dodgers. 10 years, $700 million, biggest contract in professional sports history, I think, not even just North America.
Mhm.
And then also, that they kind of snuck it in there that $680 million of that is deferred. They're paying Otani $2 million a year. His luxury tax hit is like in the 46 million range. But yeah, they're only paying him 2 million a year out of pocket for the next 10. I mean, a lot to unpack here, Stephen. What was your reaction?
Yeah, my reaction was surprised at the 700 million and not surprised at the location. The writing was on the wall since last offseason when the Dodgers kind of made some moves to indicate that they were setting up for a big offseason this offseason. They moved some money around. They, didn't spend a whole lot last year. And it kind of made sense. Obviously, Otani's from the not from the Los Angeles area, but he lives in the Los Angeles area. He's been very accustomed to that area the past few years playing with the Angels. And there was not a ton of suitors out there for Otani. There was pretty much the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Giants, maybe to some extent some other teams mixed in there too. The Angels, of course, I think were involved. But yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers were the fit. He's talked about wanting to win somewhere, and he put his money where his mouth is. He did not sign with, he signed with the team that gave him the best chance to win. And, I think that's a respectable in a lot of ways. And um he's out there to win a champion. He tried the whole thing where he wanted to kind of build a franchise around him, right? He did that with the Angels. He's not going to take another risk again and sign with an unestablished team. I just didn't see it happening. And just real quick to talk about before we get into the deferrals, I want to ask your thoughts. Like, what was your reaction about the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the location, not surprised at all. If you looked at our our Giants chatter predictions, I had Otani going to LA. Did you have him going to LA?
I had him going to Texas. I thought that there would be a mystery team, and then I realized that it probably wasn't affordable for Texas to
Yeah.
make another move like that.
Yeah, basically for all the reasons you mentioned already, I thought he was going to LA. So, I was really excited there for a minute when it sounded like he was going to Toronto because it wasn't the Dodgers, but that he ended up there, not a surprise. The 700 million is the surprising part. And again, that's kind of smoke and mirrors on 700 million with the deferrals, but when he got hurt last season, people were like, "Oh man, maybe he won't even get 500 million now." He got 700 million dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
Insane.
And not that 700, and the reason I'm shocked, not because like that's not what he's worth, because I think the Dodgers, he's worth that, I think. But I
Oh
think the
yeah.
injury threw me off. Like, right, he's not going to pitch next year. His pitching career in general is kind of, yeah, I don't know if I would use the word in jeopardy, but more so unknown, kind of a question mark. Um, and we thought that that would really take things out. 700 is what I thought he might have gotten if he didn't have the Tommy John surgery or
Yeah.
whatever this magical or
This
mystery surgery is.
mystery surgery.
Yeah, that's never been done before. That apparently, like, he's almost done recovering. I don't know what the prognosis is, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, it makes the Dodgers, and I guess we could talk about the Dodgers overview once we finish off their entire moves. But just for Otani and talking about the deferral money, like, I don't know if he set a precedent, because I don't know if there's anybody else that this could work around, only
Yeah.
because Otani's making a lot of money from endorsements anyways. So he could afford to take the $2 million, salary for the
Yeah,
next 10 years.
it's kind of, it fits his approach saying he wants to win. Okay, just
Hmm.
pay me $2 million for the next 10 years. Go get some other guys around me. And it's also like kind of a smart move to get out of California state taxes.
Yeah.
He's going to get 680 million of that when he's not living in the state. He'll probably say he has a residency in Arizona or Florida where there's no state income tax like a lot of players do and save himself another chunk of change. So, the thing is, like, I'm not upset that the Dodgers and Otani did it. If the Giants would have done it, I would have been stoked. That's going to be pretty much a common theme for talking about the Dodgers moves right now.
And Giants fans would have been stoked
It's
too.
just,
So there's a
yeah,
lot of them
exactly.
complaining
It's
about
the
this. Yeah.
precedent that it sets, and like you said, Otani's a unicorn, so it's not like we're going to see
Yeah.
680 million getting deferred ever again. But yeah, it was interesting. I was very shocked at the deferrals, and yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. And then, I mean, do we want to keep going on Otani? Should we go to what they did next?
Well, just real quick, I mean, we have to discuss kind of the reporting that happened. I mean,
Oh,
there is some false things thrown out there. There was one report by JP Hoonstra, who I view as like a very respectable journalist in LA for a while. I talked to our friend Joey, who's a Dodger fan, and he said that JP was great. He's a BBWA member. He's written for newspapers down there, and JP Hoonstra reports on a Dodger blog, Dodger Nation or whatever it's called, saying that he was picking Toronto. And then JP Morosi said that he was on a plane to Toronto, and that plane ended up being Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank. Um,
yeah. Who has the same representation as Shohei Ohtani, which is
CAA. That's
interesting.
right. That's right. So, like, I mean, I don't know if this is Shohei's agent. I don't think it's Shohei's agent, because I don't think they were spilling any information, true, false, whatever. I don't think they held so much to their chest. I don't think they were even giving the slightest hint, not even false information. But
Yeah.
it was just wild. I mean, I was kind of keeping up with it, but something about it, like, everybody kind of waits for Jeff Passan to announce these things,
Yep.
and he wasn't budging either. Ken Rosenthal was not budging either. John Heyman was not budging either. Like, the seasoned reporters that usually report breaking news nationally, like, they didn't have anything on this. And Bob Nightingale was the one that kind of cooled the room.
Oh yeah, he called Morosi out and was like, Otani's at home in Southern California. He's not on a plane. He's not going to Toronto. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a crazy day for sure. That's a
Yeah.
that's a day as a baseball fan I'll remember for a long
Yeah.
time.
And Bob Nightingale's not good at Twitter. We all know this, but like, he's respectable in his own ways, like, doing it a long time. But at the same time, when you have that public vision of Bob Nightingale like going after you and rebuking something that you said as being not true, like, you messed up. And I think JP Morosi, had a good apology. JP Hoonstra had a good apology, and they were misled. They were never confirmed with team sources, and that kind of thing happens probably. And it just sucks that it happens in such a it happened last year with John Heyman. John Heyman, good reporter, but it happened to him. So this
Yeah.
kind of thing happens, and but that was just Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank was on that plane.
Yeah, with his family, they got off the airplane and there was press there to meet them, and they probably had no idea.
I'm so over that type of journalism though. And like, this is kind of more of a me thing. You don't have to touch on this, but I'm so over the he's going to the Rams game tonight, or he's getting on a plane. Like, can we just, like, find some information that doesn't have to do with that type of, I don't know. It just doesn't seem genuine. It just doesn't seem legit reporting, because like, he could be on a plane and for another reason. He could be at a Rams game for another, I don't know. But it's very interesting to me how all of that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, $700 million contract, offseason done. Nope. Then the Dodgers go and they pivot to Tampa. They trade for Tyler Glasnow, Emmanuel Margot. And then as part of the deal, Glasnow had to agree to an extension with the team to finalize the trade. That was a 5-year, $136.5 million extension. So kind of help plug in, an arm into the rotation behind, hopefully for them, a healthy Walker Bueller. Um, and I know you're a big Glass now guy. What was your reaction to this deal?
Yeah, no, he's a Southern California guy. And I think, being a Tampa Bay Ray, at some being a good player on the Tampa Bay Rays, at some point a deal's going to happen. And I think things have been swirling a little bit. He just had to get healthy enough to where they could kind of solidify. And he was healthy last year towards the end. And the one thing I'm surprised, and first of all, I will say I'm very happy for him. Like he's a good dude, and he's going to a place that he grew up, wanting to play for, and that's great. And the Dodgers are getting a good one. And when I say the Dodgers are getting a good one, I'm surprised at kind of the reaction of this trade and people kind of brushing it off as saying he's not never healthy, he's never pitched a full year, and that's true. Like there's no argument that I could make that says anything about his durability not being great, right? It's just a fact. He's not been durable throughout his career. That's a fact. But it's a stretch to say that this isn't a significant move. It
Yeah.
really is a stretch. Like this guy, look at his stuff. Um, the numbers back it up, the spin, all the peripherals. Like this guy's disgusting. And if he is healthy, he is one of the best mid-rotation pitchers in the game. In this specific rotation, he's going to be a middle of the rotation guy. I don't know if, Walker Bueller probably going to be, take a lot off Walker Bueller's load. But I mean, this is one of the best mid-rotation guys at the moment in the game. Like if he's your game 3 starter, good luck. I don't think this
Yeah.
Glass move at all is a walk in the park like people are saying.
Well, what's nuts is, the Dodgers rotation next year, assuming Otani comes back to pitching, he's going to be the fourth starter.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. Otani, yeah. And the Dodgers are going to probably, we know Otani likes to operate with the 6-man rotation. Maybe that stays the same. And I'm wondering, and we'll talk about the Yamamoto thing in a second, but I'm wondering how Kershaw fits into this too. Like he's been back on like a 1 year, 2 year deal the past few years, and he's
I
gonna
think
be
he'll be
out until
back.
July, right? He's got the surgery. Like, is this the year where they finally just say hell with Clayton Kershaw?
I don't think so. I think they'll bring him back. They'll need him. So I think he'll be back because so right now it's looking like they'll have this year they'll have Bueller, Glass, Yamamoto, who we'll get into more in a moment,
Yeah.
Bobby Miller, and then from there it's some younger guys who need to prove themselves. One of these guys is going to get banged up at some point. They'll be able to use a Kershaw.
Yeah. Who's the blonde long hair guy? Not Ed Sheeran. Emmett Sheenan.
Emmett Sheehan.
Emmett Sheehan, yeah. He was good against the Giants. Like he had a good game where he pitched like I think it was his debut or something, where he pitched very well in like 6 scoreless or something like that. And if he's your 5, Bobby Miller's your 5, then good luck. Like Bobby Miller's somebody
Yeah.
who, profiles as a top end guy in the future. And but I have a hard time believing that this Glass now deal is not something that should be overlooked. And I think too many people, especially Giants fans, are kind of like, oh, well, he's not going to be healthy. And that could be true. Again, I'm not going to argue the fact that he's not been durable. Like that's a fact.
Yeah.
But when he's on the field, I mean, everybody in the game has been predicting that this guy's going to go off. Um, and
Yeah,
again,
and I mean, to be
yeah,
honest, and Manuel Margot's not anything to just scoff at either. He's going to be a
yeah,
solid, outfield piece for them, to supplement their, lineup that they already have that's solid.
yeah,
He's not going to carry an offense, but if he's like your eighth or ninth best hitter in your lineup, you're looking pretty solid there too.
yeah. And Jason Hayward, maybe there's some platoon in right field with Jason Hayward, and Hayward had a great year against righties last year, and they re-signed him. But I think we got into that in the last episode. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And
good
then
trade.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that, and maybe it's partially just the magnitude of the other moves they're making. So this one in relation just doesn't look like it, but I
Maybe.
agree. I think it's, one that'll be a little bigger for the Dodgers than a lot of people realize right now. And then, last night, of course, we're recording on Friday the 22nd. So last night the news came out. Finally, Yoshinobu Yamamoto had signed, and of course, it's with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So, uh, Yamamoto signs a 12-year, $325 million deal with the Bums. Oh, excuse me, the Dodgers. And I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Longest length contract ever for a pitcher. I believe highest total value contract ever for a pitcher, slightly beating Garrett Cole's deal with the Yankees. Not there on the AAV, obviously, but hey, I think he'll be okay with 325 million. And I think
Mhm.
if you're counting what was the posting fee on Yamamoto? It was like
50
$50 million. So basically, the Dodgers investing $375
plus a
million.
$50 million signing bonus. So it went over 400, I believe.
Well, I think that 50 is part of the
Oh,
325.
maybe it is. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Fair enough.
So either way you cut it, we can talk about this in a second, but the Dodgers have spent more than $1 billion this offseason,
Mm.
and it's early still. They're still adding some pieces, maybe not at this magnitude, but they're still, got some spots to fill. So, Yamamoto, we mentioned him a little bit last episode, but I think he's a three-time Japanese League MVP. Basically just only 25 years old, so that 12-year deal, only takes him to 36, 37. I think this is going to be, this is where that deferred money from Otani's coming into play. Now they can afford both these guys. And if you watch the World Baseball Classic, you saw a lot of Yamamoto.
Yeah. So the minute Otani had the deferred money, this is where everybody's thought went
Yeah.
to. Like this was inevitable. The second we saw how much of that Otani money was deferred, the minute we saw the $2 million, everybody had their fingers pointed on Yamamoto. And I will say that the New York teams, the past few days, I thought he was going to go to New York, one of the New York teams the past few days.
Yeah.
There's the report about Steve Cohen having dinner with him.
At
There's
his
a
house.
at his house. There's a report about Yamamoto wanting a second meeting with the Yankees and Brian Cashman. So I was thinking that, somebody ended up getting a report wrong from like Barstool or somewhere that a deal with the Yankees was done. Again, another misled person. But I mean, this is where again, this is another huge move. And again, Yamamoto, this is the biggest deal for anybody that's never pitched in the big leagues, who's never
Yep.
thrown a pitch in the big leagues. It's the longest contract they've ever gotten, then the biggest contract they've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Um, but what is not risky about that, and maybe we'll talk about this with Jung Hoo Lee, is that he's a dominant pitcher in Japan, and like I don't think it's going to be that much of an adjust. There's going to be an adjustment, no doubt, but I don't think it's going to be that huge of an adjustment. Kodai Senga took some time, ended up being a very good addition to the Mets. But Yamamoto, like, I mean, I guess it just comes down to who's easier to get out, big league hitters or Japanese hitters. And there's a lot of different parallels. Well, that's redundant, different parallels. There's a lot of different, you know, characteristics in these hitters. Like MLB hitters, like they're kind of a one size fits all. Everybody kind of has the same hole in their swing. They have the same way, approach. Japanese hitters are a lot more, relentless, right? They put the bat on they put the ball in play. Um,
Yep.
but he's nasty. I mean, this is a guy who's going to pitch in big games for many years to come. We're going to get to know him quite a bit. He's gonna get a chance to play with another Japanese player in Otani. It's a great match for him. And there's some opt-outs, right? I believe I couldn't find what I believe it was just announced, I think after year 7, there's an opt-out.
Hmm.
Which and he'll be in his 30s by then. I don't think he would
Yeah,
opt
he'll
out.
be 32 by then and probably passing up if he opts out, assuming it's like evenly distributed out more or
Mhm.
less. I mean, that would be like passing up a guaranteed like 120 million at age 32, 33. So that would be tough to do.
Yeah, that would be very tough to do unless he's coming off like a Blake Snell type year and he's in the position with the age that Blake Snell is now. But yeah, I mean that they're this team, and I guess we could kind of recap the Dodgers as a whole. This team is scary. Like, and I don't want to hear anything about the fact that, what happened in 2013, 14, 15, 16 about them getting booted in the postseason, like early on. That's the past. Okay. And that could
Yeah.
very well happen in the future. But what I will say is that it's not that this is a team that is like, I don't know. They're a juggernaut. They're a super team. They're trying to be the Warriors in 2017 with Durant and Curry and Draymond and Clay, and this is what they're trying to build, and they've built it.
Yeah, I mean,
Their pitching staff was a weakness a few weeks ago.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what I've been thinking about, I agree, you teams like this, and they only you can only say they're going to get booted in the postseason so many times before they stop getting booted in the
Yeah, they're
playoffs.
gonna give themselves a chance.
They already were that team that everyone relished them choking in the playoffs, and then they've added Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto
Yeah,
to that team.
exactly.
So, like, that's ridiculous. I mean, I think in, 10 or 15 years, we can look at this Dodgers lineup and they could arguably have 6, 7, 8 Hall of Famers on it, especially if they sign Kershaw to come back for this season. And, usually there's a handful of teams at the beginning of every year that, you'd say that, oh, they could win the World Series. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the World Series. For the next 6, 7 years, the Dodgers should win the World Series. It's not
Yep.
a could, it's a should. And so that is a lot of pressure. But, even if they do, quote unquote, choke in like the NLCS or the World Series a few times, I will be very surprised if they don't have like at least 3 rings out of the next 6 or 7 seasons at minimum.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's going to be the bar. That is what comes with this, right? Is
Yeah.
the bar not just the bar set, not just for one championship, probably not even for two, three maybe, but it's set every year, like you just mentioned. Like that's a great point. Every single year the Dodgers need to win the World Series to justify all of this, right? Not from a financial standpoint, but from a pride standpoint, right? When you have
Yep.
this team and you're going into every season with this team on the field and breaking camp with this team and this roster, there's expectations that you can't deny and that you can't ignore. But I'm so over the argument that, a team with this many stars is not gonna produce. They're gonna get, they can't come together like other teams.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you just gotta stack up, right?
Yep.
It's not every year where you're just going to get a group like the 2010 Giants and they're just going to come together as a whole and they're going to be scrappy and players that were on the sidewalk at a garage sale that you picked up for nothing. It doesn't happen like that. Sometimes it could happen like this, right? Where just a juggernaut comes together and they just dominate,
Yeah.
right? So it's insane. They're insane. And Arizona, they've had a great offseason too, right? They're going to be right up there with them. Maybe not right on the same level, but they're going to be in the mix too in postseason. So
I mean, yeah, they're going to be a wild card team, but they're not. I don't see anyone in that
nope.
West winning the crown for the division for the next at least
Yeah.
6, 7 years. Once these guys who are all under contract start getting a little older, but right
Yeah.
now with all of them in their prime, buckle up.
We're
Uh,
talking 110 wins. Like
oh,
yeah.
I think definitely in that
They've,
neighborhood.
yeah. And
It
we're,
is
yeah.
it's crazy to have that as an expectation for a team. Like
Yeah.
it's tough. It's weird to wrap your head around.
We've mentioned all these
Um,
great players and like it's still mind boggling that Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are still there. They're
yeah.
still there.
Yeah,
So
two finalists for the NL MVP, and we just talked about them for the first time.
yeah, on this team. Exactly.
Yeah. But that said, the Giants have made a splash of their own this offseason, signing Jung Hoo Lee out of Korea, center fielder. Excellent bat to ball skills. Not a ton of pop, but a little bit. Kind of a defensive wizard to play center field in Oracle Park for the next at least 4 years, 6 years, 113 million with a opt out after 4. I think you were out of town for the presser, but what was your, how are you thinking this will impact the Giants?
Yeah, I was out of town, but I did read the not the exact quotes from the presser, but the clarified quotes from the presser by God, I wish I had his name because he was excellent. He's been excellent through this whole thing by
Hmm.
rightly translating what Jung Hoo Lee said. But yeah, no, good signing. And like he's not an aircraft carrier. Like that's not who Jung Hoo Lee is. That's not hopefully that's not what they're asking him to do. But what I do see this as is it's a start. It's a start. It's a guy that, could be a very good difference maker on a great team. And the
Hmm.
Giants aren't great yet, but, with this addition, it opens the door for a lot of other, a lot of other moves to come. And the Giants have been looking for a center fielder. I think we've talked about it in chats that we've been in. Like, when was the last time they had a legit center fielder who profiled as a center fielder? Like Yastrzemski, they've always wanted to move him to right field. Probably not him. Slater, probably a corner outfielder. It's been a while since they've had a true, maybe Pagan. If I,
Yeah, Pagan or
yeah,
Torres, I guess.
Pagan or Torres. Pilar was amazing out there. The defensive metrics didn't show it, but he was only one season. So it's been a while since they've had some athletes out there and athletes in their outfield in general who could play every day. And look, there's going to be an adjustment period. This is not the same as a Japanese hitter coming from Japan. The level is much less. But at the same time, I'm of the belief that great players can adjust wherever they go because they're if you're a great player one place, I have no doubt that you're going to make the adjustments to be a great player in another place, right? So I think he's going to make these adjustments. Um, but I just don't think the Giants should count on him to do too much. But what I will say is that he's impressed me with his personality, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite, and he's going to sell a lot of jerseys, and it shows the Giants are willing to commit.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a lot of fun to kind of learn about, and his he's been really kind of entertaining
Grandson of
watching,
the Wind,
yeah,
yeah,
grandson of the wind. It does bring, a bat to the Giants lineup that fans can finally expect to see every day. They basically said we didn't sign this guy to platoon. And when you sign a guy for 113 million, which a lot of people are looking at that at least as at the moment as an
it's
overpay,
not
but
their
that's what
money.
the Giants have to do to get
Yeah,
some talent to San Francisco right now. They're going to get to see this guy play every day. He should be entertaining to watch, and hopefully that'll help, attract some other players to come into San Francisco. Um, I think that's their biggest contract for a bat since Aaron Rowan. I'm
yeah,
I'm pulling I'm pulling that out of my
of
what right now, but I'm
of all
pretty
time.
sure, yeah. So um, you know, I'm just glad the Giants signed somebody, to be honest. Speaking as a Giants fan, it's good to see them finally land, someone who's in like a top 10 or so free agent list. Hopefully they can add a few more now with some of these other guys coming off the board. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think there will be an adjustment. I think also just in general, hitters adapting to the big leagues is a lot tougher than pitchers adapting because your stuff's your stuff. It's up to the hitters to hit your stuff. If you're a hitter, you're seeing an elevation and stuff from what you're used to. So I do think that hopefully he'll get to Arizona a little early and try to hit off some of these guys in camp and hopefully, make some of those adjustments in camp before he's playing at Oracle Park.
Yeah,
But
without a
I'm
doubt.
excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, me too. And I think it's a good move. And again, it's a start. And if the Giants were to go into the season with this being their only move, it would not be a good offseason. But like you, I'm very excited for Jung Hoo Lee. I think he's a lot of fun. And I think the Giants needed, it's about time they dip their foot into a international market like that. Because I don't know if I know for
Yeah.
a fact you've seen your timeline since this happened. Like Korean fans are fun. Like I've been
Oh
following their
yeah.
threads and everything. Like they're fun, and they're going to be watching these games. And the Giants, they're
Yeah.
bringing in a new crop of people that are going to be able to follow this team, which
Yeah, I
is
mean, I tweeted how like one of my favorite parts so far of the Lee signing is all the Korean fans who are showing interest in the Giants and the roster and the city and like what time the games are going to be locally for them, so they can make sure that they're all awake to watch Jung Hoo Lee play
yeah.
Major League Baseball. So
And he's the MVP down there. He's won an MVP. Like he's a big deal down there. So the best player to come out of Korea in recent years, and here he is in the big league. So like, it's a big deal for them. I feel like it's not being talked about as much. And the people that are saying it's an overpay, look, it's not your money, okay? And Charles Johnson is the richest owner in the game, and this is very much affordable. And the same people that were telling the Giants to spend money are the same ones saying that this is an overpay. So
Yeah.
stop. Anyhow,
But yeah,
we
so now I mean we pivot. We got,
yeah,
I think a lot of people felt that Otani and Yamamoto were gonna be the roadblocks to the hot stove. And so now I mean we're looking at probably, Blake Snell, Cody Bellinger, they're probably the next, maybe a Matt Chapman. I'm just thinking of like the next big names that fans can expect to see. Um, and it'll be interesting to see where these guys are going. I've seen conflicting reports on almost all of those guys that I just mentioned. Are teams interested in Snell? Does he walk too many guys? Cody Bellinger got DFA'd a year ago, but he bounced back really strong. Like, so, this is where we've talked about a lot, on the show and on Twitter a lot. The cream of the crop was really nice this offseason, and then it falls off steeply. And we're already kind of seeing that, even just talking about the third, fourth, fifth best guys on this free agent market.
yeah, and we this is the free agent market, the most questionable free agent market that we have seen in recent years. I could go down the list of every free agent and give you a question. Like Otani, injury. Bellinger, like you mentioned, unproductive, one of the worst hitters in baseball for 2 years. Yamamoto, never threw an MLB pitch. Snell, control issues and, yeah. Chapman, right? How much is he an upgrade over kind of what you would already have? Like there's question marks across the board. And for Snell, I think this is going to be, yeah, I don't know how many teams are going to be in on him the same way they were in on Yamamoto. Like a lot of people think it's just an easy pivot. For some teams, yes, but for other teams, maybe not. Yamamoto was like young. He's 25. Snell is 32 years old. So it's a different timeline. Like you have to be thinking about the different timelines about when your team is going to win. So a
Yeah.
lot of those teams, maybe Blake Snell is not a long-term fit for them the way Yamamoto was. But I think Snell's market is going to be pretty good. I think Scott Boras is going to milk this out based on what Yamamoto got.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be his goal is to get Blake Snell the best deal. That's his job, as he should be doing. Um, and then as for Bellinger, like I'm confused by Bellinger. I don't think he'll sign until late. For whatever reason, I feel like he's not going to get the deal that he wants because I think people are a little hesitant about what he brings to the table just because those 2 years of not doing anything. Um, but I think he's a guy that's going to sign very closer to February and spring training, the start of spring training. Um, it's a lot easier for him to do that than maybe Snell. Snell's a pitcher. You got to get on the pitching plan. He reports earlier. But I could see Bellinger holding this out. But I think the best spot for him is back to Chicago. Like that's the best spot that I would assume that Bellinger would be. But for Snell, I think it's pretty much open.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And I think, like you said, with Bellinger potentially holding out a little bit longer, like the timing of all this now. So I think a lot of people are like, Yoshi needs to hurry up and sign so everyone
Mhm.
else can. Like, well, is that really going to be the case or not? So, because now
Yeah.
everyone who was, I mean, Yamamoto was at least mentioned with like every major team, both New York teams, both LA teams, Chicago a little bit, Boston, San Francisco. So now those teams, they were probably working on some backup plans, but how long does it take them to kind of pivot and start engaging in deep talks with some of these other guys?
Yeah.
So
And who knows, maybe the trade market is more interesting. Like maybe a team would rather go ahead and trade for Corbin Burns or Dylan Cease than go and sign a Jordan Montgomery or a Marcus Stroman. Like that's
yeah,
probably what it ends up, being. And um I just don't think the pivot, like you mentioned those big market teams, I don't think a lot of those teams, their automatic pivot is to Snell or
yeah,
Montgomery or Stroman.
yeah.
Like they didn't get him, they didn't get that top line guy. Not saying that Snell's not, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of those teams in the same boat. as in for Snell. But
Yeah, we've talked about the trade market a bit, and I think now that some of the names that we've talked about already have signed, now there's definitely more talent available potentially via trade than what's on the free agent market. So I
definitely,
think it might be a slower developing offseason than most people expect with these big names off the board now.
yeah, no, without a doubt. But it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it. Um,
Yeah,
should we get up to our three up,
yeah.
three downs?
Yeah, let's do it. Three up, three down. So,
Let's go with the downs first.
we lead off with the downs though, because we don't like to end on a down note. And I'm gonna just start off with the all MLB team. I I guess there was a special they aired that you said was pretty
It was trash.
nauseating.
It was trash. Yeah.
And then, just looking at the teams, it was basically like almost like a popularity contest on, from the playoff teams for the most part. Like I think Otani's one of the only guys on either roster that didn't make the playoffs. Speaking from the Giants fans' perspective, you had Logan Webb, who finished second in the NL Cy Young voting, who wasn't even named in one of the top two. And this is where, people like to give the writers a hard time, but this is where, the writers, they typically do a really good job voting. And that's not who did the all MLB team. I'm talking about when you look at like the Cy Young, MLB, MVP voting, all the other awards that the writers are in charge of, they're pretty unbiased. They're giving you what they really think. Anytime MLB is putting something together, there's usually some ulterior motives behind it. And so I don't put a lot of weight in the all MLB team, but that doesn't mean I still can't say that it was garbage.
It was a lame event. I watched it and
Was this the second year they did it? I think
like
they did it
I
last
think
year.
so. This is the first time they've done like a live event, but they've done this, I believe, like this is the fifth time that they've done it. And the just watching the event was horrid. They were in Vegas, but only a handful of players went. So like they had one guy for each position, kind of, that
Mm-hmm.
was represented. Or sometimes not even one guy for each position. I think Zach Gallen was the only pitcher that was there. Um, if I'm not mistaken. But and it was like a cheap stage. There wasn't a lot of people in the room. Like I don't know. They could have gone if you're gonna have something like that, go all out, invite every player in the game, invite all your award winners. Like I don't want to see Bartolo Colon. Why was he there? Just because he's
You
somebody
can
who
never
could
have
get
enough big sexy, man. Come
as
on.
much as I agree, like he can't be the guy that, your centerpiece and you make a social media post around. Um, but I don't know, it was just a weird event.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll move on from that. But yeah, all MLB team down number one. Down number two, there's a MLB has just announced more rule changes because that's what we need. Just more rule changes. Keep tweaking
Yeah.
some things. That's what the fans really want. Just a brief over one of the rules is a wider runner's lane when you're going from home to first. So it's going to give the runners a little bit more space in fair territory. Um, Widening it so it's got to be between 18 and 24 inches on the inside of the foul line max. That's whatever. I mean, at this point, I think saw some tweets about it. At this point, just keep them all in foul territory. Put an extra bag there, like in rec league softball. At this
Yeah.
point, if you're worried about expanding a lane, I guess. And then, of course, just more pace of play stuff without just getting into the nitty gritty of it because that wouldn't be very fun listening. But just focused around pace of play, uh, batter timeouts, pitching change. One of the ones I guess we can get a little more specific on is if a pitcher comes out to warm up to start an inning, he has to face at least the first batter, if not more, depending on the batter minimum rule. Which means that a lot of these rules, and we've talked about it before, really gives the offense a lot of power to because the defense gets handcuffed into what they can do, while the offensive team can throw out pinch hitters and whatnot to mix it up. And some of these things where the MLB released it trying to justify why they did this. They said, this saved, 7.3 seconds compared to last year, or, this happened 24 times last year. There's thousands of baseball games a year, and you're focusing on something that happened 24 times and telling fans that this is important to you, so that's why we're changing it.
No, it's stupid. And that rule that you mentioned about the starting the inning, and if you send a guy out there, he's got to face a hitter. Um, as long as I'm living, baseball will never make a rule against offense. Never.
No.
Every single rule change has gone against the pitcher. And I'm biased because, like, I think about how I would feel about this stuff. Pitching got too good in the 60s. They lowered the mound. Okay. They needed more offense in the early 70s. They added another freaking hitter into the lineup. They added a DH.
Yep.
Pitchers are being too good. They put a pitch clock on them and blame the pitcher instead of the hitter, where it was the hitter that took the most time in the first place.
Yeah.
So like every single rule, the shifts, right? No more shifts. Okay, boom, pitching, can't have that anymore for a pitcher. Every single rule that you go down is anti-pitcher. Every single rule. And for this one specifically, I will say the base running one makes sense because we've seen that call too many times the past few years in big spots. And there's a situation where there's a little roller up along the third base side. Third baseman makes a barehand play, throws to first. It's a bad throw. And for whatever reason, the runner's called out. And I know Davey Martinez in Washington hates this call. I hate this call. You're basically rewarding the third baseman or pitcher or catcher, whoever's making that throw. You're rewarding them for making a bad throw. And that should never be the case. So I'm glad that that's changed to some regard. But the other ones, like you mentioned, pace of play, like we're there. Like I think what we saw last year, that's the peak. That should be the peak of what baseball's trying to do with their pace of play initiative. Like
Yeah.
that to me, that was the players adjusted nicely. You don't do anything else after that. And for them to go and do other stuff after that, it's greedy. It's too much. I just don't think I want to be able to recognize the game, and I have no issues with the pitch clock. But when you have something that's going good, like it was last season, why do you change it? 7
Yeah.
seconds. And the thing that you mentioned about 24 times, like that's thousands of innings, and something that happened 24 times. And to do it, you're going to sacrifice a commercial, which I'm shocked that MLB is even doing that, right? Because there's a
Yeah.
double commercial where it's like, all right, we're back from commercial. Oh, wait, they're taking them out. We're going to go back to commercial. Like, wow, surprising that MLB wants to get rid
Yeah.
of commercial. I don't know, but it's lame. Don't fix it if it's not broken. And it worked out good last year. There's no need to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about how the games got longer from like April compared to September and by like 6 or 7 minutes. And it's like, well, yeah, because at first players weren't sure how this pace thing was going to work. So they were all just trying to make sure they didn't have any pitch clock violations. And then they found their groove and how they can settle it in. And even in their press release, they mentioned that pitchers began their deliveries with an average of 7.3 seconds remaining on the clock. So it's not like they were running this thing down to the wire. So why are we adjusting the pitch clock now again, too? It's like they were getting it off with plenty of time. They weren't milking the clock to the end. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems like they're just changing stuff just so it can seem like it's important and that
Yeah.
they're trying to improve what they think fans want to see.
And yeah, and in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I understand. I
Yeah,
understand, right? I
yeah.
understand there's a need to maybe, shave some of that, but 6 minutes.
At what point do teams say, okay, we don't want the game to be much shorter than this because our concession stands are only open for like an hour and a half now before we hit the seventh inning and we got to close them down?
Well, I don't think they care about that because then they don't have to pay them for the extra hours.
Oh, but I
Yeah.
guarantee you they're making more money if they're open selling beers for $15 a pop. One beer pays for that person's wage for the whole hour.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a good point. Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a mess. Yeah.
yeah. And then, yeah, so down number two, all these rule changes that they say are for the fans that all the fans hate. And then
Mhm.
third, literally down the temperature of the hot stove. Like we just talked about a little bit ago. I don't think we're going to see a flurry of activity. I think we're going to see how that trade market does boil down before some of these guys sign, because I think there is some more talent available via trade now than what's on the market. And it's been slow. It's been focused on two or three guys so far this offseason for the most part. And luckily the hot stove, the MLB hot stove is not what's keeping our homes warm at night, because we would be very cold right now, I think, Steven.
Yeah, maybe you need to make an end game for your free agency if you're baseball. Maybe you make like a, January 15th, January
Yeah,
31st type, deadline where, you have fun those last few weeks, But
yeah,
I don't know. Again, then I don't know what would happen if, some of the guys that um if there's an injury in spring training, maybe, a lesser guy gets signed and makes the team as a bench guy. Th those people would be effective if there's a deadline and you can't sign. But so I don't know how realistic it is, but it's slow. It is slow. I mean, it's slow and um I don't know how
yeah.
this compares to other off seasons, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And every offseason, at least in baseball, is a little different. It does, stretch it out where if you're a baseball fan, and like if in ML, in the NBA and like the NFL, it's almost over like as soon as it starts, like NBA free agency starts and you have like guys signing within minutes of,
Yeah.
free agency opening. But then once they all sign, like, cool, the offseason news cycle is pretty much over.
Yeah.
It
It's
keeps,
suspicious as hell too. Like there's
yeah,
there, yeah.
there's tampering big time. But, you know, it, I guess, guys are going to sign whenever they need to sign because you can't really put limitations on it because either way, one side or the other will use that to their advantage, whether that's the players or the owners. If a guy has to sign by like, January 31st or he can't play the next year,
Yeah.
owners are going to be like, hey, do you want to, okay, here's your offer. Either sign this or you don't play and you don't make anything. So,
And I feel like
I don't know if,
if there's a deadline, then it's really gonna lag this part of the like then
yeah.
everybody's gonna wait. Okay.
Yeah, then it'll just wait till the end and you'll see everyone
Yeah.
sign. So,
Yeah.
I don't think there's necessarily anything to change about it. It's just
Yeah.
like in general, this off season has been a cold one.
Fair enough. Very cold. Anyhow, let's do some ups here. I took one off last minute. I don't know if you saw that, but I do want to give a mention to Andrew McCutchen for signing a 1 year deal with the Pirates. Good to see him back in Pittsburgh. I don't know if this is his
And
final year.
and an epic social media post to announce that he did a
Yeah,
little Wolf of Wall Street mashup. If you didn't see it, go watch it. It was great. But yeah, I saw
it's
you.
so
It's
good.
like I guess that's the preface to the up. Since you took him off, he's not an official up, but a quick shout
Yeah,
out to
non-official
Kutch
up.
there.
Quick shout out. I love Andrew McCutchen. One of the few non-Giants jerseys that I had growing up. Pirates Andrew McCutchen jersey. One of my favorite players of all time. Um, and also one of the best players in the 2010s. Anyhow, uh, I want to mention Jim Leland. He got elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee. Jim Leland was one of the few managers that were on the list of candidates. I believe Cito Gaston, Davey Johnson, Lou Piniella was on there, and Jim Leland gets the call. Of course, Jim Leland is a one-time World Series winner with the Marlins in 2000, or was he 90? He was 97. I don't think he won it with them in 2003. He is gone by then, I believe. I could be wrong about that though.
I guess
No,
what
wait. Now my timeline's all mixed up here. Jim Leland. Gonna do a quick Google search on it, but while I'm doing a Google search, I do want to say that well deserved. He's a player's manager from what I've heard, and he was in Florida for 97 and then was not there in 2003 when they won and they beat the Yankees. But yeah, one of the most recognizable figures in a long time when he was managing. Everybody kind of knew Jim Leland's teams, what they would be capable of. He did get to the World Series in 2012 and 2006. Lost to Boston and lost to St. Louis in '06, and no, yeah, lost to St. Louis in '06. That was just kind of a weird World Series. A bunch of teams that won like 85 games got in, and then in 2012 got swept in Detroit. But good baseball man, Jim Leland.
Yeah, I don't have anything against him. I thought it was kind of weird that, he got right in and Lou Piniella didn't. Piniella had more, they're basically right next to each other. I was actually just taking a peek. Let me go back
Yeah,
just a quick sec. They're right next to each other in wins. Piniella in 17th at 1835. Leland 18th with 1769. and Pinella has a better winning percentage than him. So I thought that was kind of weird. Pinella was always kind of a prickly guy though, while Leland was kind of lovable.
Mhm.
But yeah, he managed some great players, managed some great teams. Um, and then just kind of looking at what some of these guys are doing getting into the Hall of Fame, and then you're looking at, guys like Boch and Baker and Francona in the next few years. There's going to be a lot of modern day managers in Cooperstown here soon.
Yeah, and I do want to say that the Veterans Committee missed a chance to elect Bill White into the Hall of Fame, which is a big shame. I know that's not an up, but I was kind of upset by that. He's 89 years old. He was an outstanding player, and he was like the first, I think, black sports announcer or baseball announcer in the game. He was the president of the National League for a long time. Like this guy was so influential in baseball, and they're gonna wait until he's dead to get him elected, which is a shame. So that's horrible. But my up number two, I'm gonna go real quick with San Francisco. Okay, we could have done a whole episode on this, but I want to try to broaden it as quickly as possible. And I did this last minute because I just thought of it. San Francisco is a beautiful city, and I want to give it some praise here because there's been a lot of stuff going on. There's comments made by Buster Posey talking about the perception that he's gotten from free agents on why they're not signing with the Giants, and maybe the city, the politics, the homelessness, the crime, maybe that has something to do with it. And Buster didn't make he didn't state his opinion. He's just simply relaying what he had heard. And I want to give San Francisco an up. I want to give them a pump because in my mind, it's the most beautiful city on the planet. I'm biased, of course, but yeah, I grew up going to San Francisco a lot. I went to school in San Francisco. I still go to school in San Francisco, and I think it has issues. It has issues that I want to see solved. It has serious issues, but these are also serious issues that every single big city has. And there's a homelessness report that came out of I don't know what research did this or where this came from, but per capita, San Diego and Los Angeles had higher homeless rates. So San Francisco is being judged based on 2 or 3 or 4 blocks of activity, and it's the biggest shame that I could think of. And if you're a free agent coming into it, just know you're not going to be living smack in the middle of the Tenderloin. You're going to be living in the Walnut Creek area, in Black Hawk neighborhood in Danville. You're going to be living in the Peninsula, Palo Alto. You're going to be driving up. This is not a place where, and this is like players in every big city. Not a lot of them live in the city, directly in the city. And I'm sick of San Francisco kind of being talked about like, being singled out when it's not the only players signed in Chicago, players signed in
Yeah.
New York, players signed in LA and San Diego. And this is and I don't think this is the reason at all why players aren't signing. I think the reason is the Giants are an average team and have been for quite some time. That's the reason players aren't signing. But I want to give an up to San Francisco because it is not hell. Okay. It is not what you see on the news, on the mainstream news networks, on Twitter by commentators that have never been there. It is a special place and it has issues that everybody wants to see fixed. Nobody's denying that there's issues. Nobody. Everybody
Yeah.
knows about them. Everybody knows about the tents, the fentanyl, everything going on. But every big city is battling through the same. It's an ongoing issue that, frankly, I don't know if I'm going to see solved in my lifetime or your lifetime, but we can only band together to support the city. And I feel like that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I love San Francisco as well. I called it home for a number of years. I wish I could still live there, but we started a family and wanted to get back to where our other family was. So, I think that what Buster Posey said was kind of blown up and kind of twisted a little bit. I don't know if he necessarily should have even approached it at all or anything. I don't think he was saying it was the only reason why. I think he was just saying that it was brought up.
Yeah.
And
Probably shouldn't have said it
especially,
publicly. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he is correct as far as that's the
Mhm.
perception, reality or not, that it's worse there than other places. It's the perception. I think that's true. I mean, whether it's because I'm walking around wearing a Giants hat, 95% of my life, or that, people just know that I used to live down there. A lot of people now that I don't live there talk to me about it and they tell me how dirty and, homeless problems and stuff. And I go, oh, when was the last time you were down there? And oh, I haven't been in years. It's like, yeah, so yeah, it's unfortunate that's been kind of a major talking point the last few weeks. I do agree. It's an amazing city. I love it with my whole heart. And yeah, hopefully, the team can improve enough to get other players to want to come there, because I do think that's the main factor in players not coming here, and the rest might play a small part in it, but it's mostly just an excuse.
Yeah, Giants, they got some work to do and getting this team better. If you get this team better and you get this team in a respectable place, you won't even hear about that at all, right? You won't hear about it. And again, just to reiterate, nobody's saying San Francisco is perfect. Nobody's saying that there's not issues that are pressing, that are affecting the way of life in the city. Nobody's saying that. But it's not the only place this happens. And
Yeah.
who knows when the last time Buster Posey walked in the Tenderloin was, or any of these players, these high profile players in San Francisco. Carlos Correa signed a big deal with the Giants, and that week was looking for a house in Lafayette. I mean,
Yeah.
he I, that's hilarious to me. Anyhow, just have to get that off my chest. Final up is a kind of a funny one. If you listen to my other podcast, Rizzocast,
Kind of a funny one.
kind of a funny one. Yeah, I shouldn't say, but Dylan Cumming, who is a minor league pitcher with the San Francisco Giants organization, pitched in San Jose last year. Um, he apparently was recently robbed at gunpoint. And this happened in North Carolina. And he was on his way to get some breakfast at McDonald's, and he was robbed at gunpoint. And the suspect apparently took his car and his cell phone and his wallet. When a cop showed up, the cop said, "Do you need a ride anywhere?" And Dylan Cummings said, "Yeah, I got to go throw my bullpen." And Dylan, we talked about Tread on the podcast. It's a place where he works out in North Carolina. And he's like, "Yeah, I got to go throw a bullpen." And the suspect ended up totaling his car. And Dylan, his main priority was still going to go throw a bullpen because he was late for his bullpen session. That was the one thing that happened. So Dylan Cumming gets robbed at gunpoint, and the most important thing to him is getting some bullpen work in. So I love that. I thought that was a funny story, and we'll have to have him on here. I feel like
And
we should go deep into that.
anytime someone gets held at gunpoint, I usually chuckle a little bit. So
Not that it's horrible that he got held at gunpoint, but the fact that like
he was like,
this,
I got to get to work now.
I gotta get to, like, usually a guy's like, "Hey, I'm not gonna come in today. Like that was pretty scary. Just drive me home." He told the
Yeah.
police officer, "I gotta go through my bullpen."
Yep.
So, first of all, I mean, the guy totaled the car after a high speed chase, but we need to get Dylan on here. I think he would do it actually. We got
Yeah.
to get him on here, and we got to talk about, obviously his career, undrafted free agent, and everything, and what the hell happened with that. But I think that's an up. I think it's good motivation. Not that he got robbed at gunpoint, but the fact that he's uh he's a
Yeah.
he's a
Putting in the
game.
work. Yeah.
Put in the work. I thought it was a funny story.
Yeah.
It's better than the story that I had before this, which was the couple renewing their vows in front of Al Kaline's Hall of Fame statue or plaque. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Anyhow, I think we shut it down again.
We did.
Yeah.
It's hopefully we'll have some traction here. Some more signings to talk about. Hopefully we'll be able to record them a little sooner than,
Yeah.
2 weeks after, like the Otani deal. But hey,
Yeah.
we still want to talk about it.
And I think we got some
Um,
big stuff coming up too.
yeah, we have I think I'll give a little tease. We have Jake McKinley, the head coach of the University of Nevada Reno Wolfpack baseball program, coming on with us next week. Talk a little bit about the college game. He used to work for the Milwaukee Brewers in the front office, so we'll talk, about how front offices approach the off season. And yeah, just talk ball in general with him. So that'll be fun. And then we have a couple other guests in mind that we're looking to line up. Maybe a free agency guest, hopefully a Hall of Fame related guest by the time that announcement comes. So trying to, the shutdown inning hot stove will be warm in the weeks ahead.
Definitely. We're gonna be in our prime these next few weeks for sure. But looking forward to it. Everybody could go ahead and follow the podcast on Twitter at @shutdown_inning. Check us out on Spotify. and YouTube. And yeah, Merry
That's
Christmas,
what.
Tyler. Yeah, hold on. Yeah. Merry
Merry
Christmas,
Christmas,
happy
everybody.
holidays,
Yeah,
and hope everybody has a good one out there with their family and friends. Hold them tight. These moments, cherish them. They're fun moments. This is a fun time of the year. And yeah, happy holidays to you, Tyler, and your family. And let me know how it goes, and let me know how dinner was, what you ate. I gotta hear all the details about
yeah,
the hall Christmas.
yeah. We'll break it all down for sure. And yeah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, my friend. Everybody enjoy, stay safe, and be merry and all that good stuff. And that's what's up.
Out of it.